Yo, what is good? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chuck. Happy Saturday, guys. Happy Saturday. I hope you've had a great week so far. And I really appreciate each and every one of you being here. Today we have a fun one. I am being very vulnerable with you. I'm talking about the 5 biggest mistakes that I have made in the hobby, and I believe are probably 5 of the biggest mistakes that you could possibly make in investing in Pokemon. Okay. And so if you're new to investing, if you've been investing for a while, I think it will be relevant to you. And it's especially important going forward because you've seen market sentiment change a little bit recently. All right. If you believe a bear market is coming, it feels like we're in the beginning stages of it, where every couple months we get more product, people get more exhausted, right? Bull markets can't last forever. So everybody's trying to decide when it's going to happen, but I believe if you have a good plan and you are aware of the things that I'm going to be talking about today, you're not going to be super worried about anything either way because you'll have conviction long term in the #1 IP in the world. So really quickly, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor. That's right. It's PokeNotify. PokeNotify has been with me since the beginning. I've been using it since January, and I have found it to be a great tool to have in my arsenal to get product. I no longer go to stores in person unless I'm, the odd shopping, getting coffee creamer here and there, checking. Recently, I've gotten some surprise boxes at Target. Very excited. Might rip one on the channel. Some Destined Rivals, everything at MSRP. And it's a great way to keep track of big restocks coming. We have one here, big prismatic bundle, Costco, 150,000 units coming this month. So thank you again to PokeNotify. Link down below. You can have a 3-day free trial. And if you like it, if it makes sense for you, 25% off your first month. All right. Mistake number 1 is not buying the sets I believed in the most. So not concentrating as much as diversifying. I know there are arguments for both. When you're thinking about what to buy, it's impossible to know the future. There are data points that we can look to decide if a set is more likely to outperform another set of its kind. For instance, Paldea Evolved, I bought 2 boxes in 2023 for about $80 each, shipped. Crazy world we live in. But at the time, if you were around, you knew that Paldea Evolved, if you compared it to Base, Paradox, Rift, Temporal, Obsidian Flames, etc., everybody said that Paldea Evolved was underrated. And if you look at the card list, it has a better card list than every other set, I believe, in those boxes. Instead, I put more effort into Paradox Rift just because it had the Roaring Moon, had the Iron Valiant, right? It had all these other cards that I thought were more likely to increase with time. But I knew in the back of my mind that Paldea Evolved, I felt like it was a stronger set. And I spent a lot of time ripping Paldea Evolved instead. And so now I have way more Paradox Rift booster boxes than I do Paldea Evolved. And I think this is a perfect instance that concentrating my capital, my hard-earned capital, right, something we all need to think about, would have been much better off putting it in a set like Paldea Evolved over Paradox Rift, a set that I believed would outperform long-term. Instead, you had all these different options of booster boxes, buy Base or Obsidian. You have one of each box. Well, yeah, you might mitigate some of your risk, but you're very much limiting your upside. And in the Pokemon space, diversifying can be good, but we kind of know what sets are going to outperform in the future. You look at a set like 151, Prismatic Evolutions, right? Paldean Fates. Destined Rivals comes to mind. Surging Sparks, sets that have generated hype. They have a better set list than something like Stellar Crown, where, yeah, you can get it for cheap, but is it going to outperform long term? I don't think the argument is there at these current prices. And that was also the case back then when boxes were around $100. So I do wish I spent more time, especially in the down market, concentrating on the sets that I believed in the most. Now, I understand when you go on Facebook in your area, you're kind of beholden to what is out there. But I think that's just another lesson in discipline. Just, you don't need to buy everything. Okay. I know everything goes up, but some things go up quicker than others, i.e. Taldi Evolved over Paradox Rift. So that is probably the number one mistake that I believe a lot of investors make. Now, ultimately, my conclusion is, yeah, do this. If that works for you, great. But if you feel more comfortable diversifying, then do whatever is more comfortable for you. Okay, because longevity is the ultimate priority. Whatever helps you stay in the hobby longer, whatever makes you sleep better at night, that is what you should be doing. So, number 2, going to touch on this one because I think it's super important and definitely not enough people talk about it, especially when you're a viewer. I myself am a viewer, and I watch content creators talk about buying product. I'm like, where do they put it? Oftentimes it's all over the place. It's in their guest rooms, it's in their studio apartments, you know, just lining the walls, kind of like busting out of shelves all over. Their basement is full. At the very least, if there's any lesson to take away from this, is that you should have some type of plan when it comes to storage. A plan that I have right now is I am building shelves inside of my closets to increase capacity for storage. In a humidity controlled environment, my house, you know, you can buy silica packets, acrylic cases, the little flimsy cases like these right here, which do pretty well, all things considered, for the price point that they're at. But like, if you spend all of your time buying ancillary products, and I know a deal's a deal, I get it, it's going to be harder to store them compared to something like a booster box or an ETB or booster bundles, whatever. And that is something to be considered when you're talking about premium and products too. Storage comes to mind. I also bought a couple of these clear boxes, and I kind of regret that because, you know, you should be buying boxes that are not exposed to sunlight, ideally. Now, I'm not too worried about it. It's inside my house, right? But, you know, why expose yourself to risk if you don't have to? So, you know, be thinking about storage, have a plan, and don't be afraid to sell if storage becomes an issue for you. It's okay. All right. It's not the end of the world. So, you know, definitely a mistake that I made early on and something I'm still working on trying to optimize for my situation. Another thing is not following market sentiment. Especially in the beginning when I started investing, I would see people's opinions and kind of write them off, or kind of sometimes blindly believe what people are saying on the internet. Ultimately, the more experience you have, the more you'll be able to form your own opinions, and ties back to the conviction that I was talking about. The number one thing, having conviction. Because if you look at a set like Fusion Strike, it was $90 a box for the longest time, and nobody wanted it. And to me, in hindsight, of course, that was a screaming buy opportunity. Pretty much any booster box under $100 is a screaming buy opportunity. They just can't remain at that price point forever, which is exactly what we've seen. Now the market has come around. They love Fusion Strike. Everybody agrees it's like the consensus number 2 box, arguably set, of the Sword and Shield era. And I think it works on the flip side too. Well, okay, now everybody believes in this set, like Evolving Skies. That's where a lot of the money and a lot of the gains are going to be. So you need to have kind of a pulse on what's going on. I'm not saying you need to be online all the time and seeing what everybody is saying and all the time, but you know, a lot of people are going to say different things, but you'll find common themes. And then over time, you'll start to see trends. You'll start to see patterns, like how I've been kind of calling for Sword and Shield the past couple of months. You know, we're starting to see a lot of price movement on these sets as being undervalued. A lot of people would agree that it's undervalued, and in a speculative asset, in a space like this where there's a collectible game with values tied to cards, if a lot of people agree about something, it kind of tends to happen. Battle styles, a lot of people say it's undervalued, yet it hasn't moved because money goes elsewhere in sets that are more exciting. So it's something to keep in mind, and it's something that I didn't do enough when I entered the space. And it's something we should all be aware of. And I think it's definitely important to do. You know, look at a set like Celebrations, $235. Everybody was super hype about Celebrations in the beginning, and for good reason. There's a lot of cool stuff going on with the set, anniversary. Well, then you kind of put it in the back of your mind. It's like, well, okay, well, the next anniversary, we probably know it's going to make a move, but that's 5 years from now. So I'm just not going to worry about it. Boxes dropped quite a bit, and you can get them pretty low for a long time. Now, you heard rumblings a few months ago, like really this year, that Celebrations anniversary is in a year, 2026. You could have spent that time buying Celebrations. A lot of people didn't, myself included. So me kind of ignoring my own bias, I suppose, and not purchasing this box. Of course, I have one now. I didn't get it at 100. I also found one at Goodwill for $2. I sold it for 77 back in like August. Somewhat regrettable, but I was kind of in a somewhat of a different mindset at that time. But anyway, I digress. Something to definitely be aware of. My next point, number 4, ripping the wrong sealed products. Okay, now I'm a staunch believer that you should have fun with Pokemon cards, and that typically means ripping some packs. New set comes out, rip it open. In 2023 and 2024, you could get Paradox Rip, Paldea Evolve, Temporal Forces, etc. All these early Scarlet and Violet boxes that nobody really liked at the time for very cheap, $80. And so I spent a little bit more time ripping the boxes than deciding to hold them for the long haul, because you have to remember market sentiment was a little bit different. I think there was a bit less conviction for many folks, but you know, ripping a box here and there at that price point was pretty cool. With that being said, I don't think I would ever rip a booster box now going forward, like ever again, because there's plenty of opportunities to rip ancillary products, blisters, booster bundles, sets that are a little bit more, or products that are a little bit more efficient for ripping, if that is my intention. So I probably ripped, I mean, I've ripped a lot of product in the last 5 years, but as far as booster boxes go, easily like 10 to 20. That includes Sword and Shield. Somewhat regrettable, I understand. Of course, the times were different then, but that is a very important lesson to remember, especially in a bear market. If you want to rip your product, if you feel like you're done with the hobby, you'd be better off just selling the booster boxes and then just buying a product that tends to have a lower ROI long term. Because remember, booster boxes are king, right? I've also ripped a bunch of PC ETBs because they weren't viewed in the same way that they are now. Paladin Fates comes to mind. Rip. It is what it is. You know, that's kind of the journey that I've been on. You learn from it and you move on. Did I have a lot of fun? Yeah, I did, and I don't really regret it, to the extent that like I lose sleep over, you know, at night. But that is a huge mistake to make, especially if you're new. If you've been around for a while, it's nothing new. But if you're new, definitely keep that in mind, because your feelings in the hobby now are probably really elated, unless you're really frustrated, of course, to not get any product. But that will probably change the second a downturn comes, okay? And when a downturn does come, here are some cards that I pulled, by the way. This is what I was left with after opening a Paradox Rift box. Temporal Forces. I actually sold this for $86 because there was a huge like price pump right after it came out. You know, Gengar was in the set. These are little signs that you see in the market. People are hungry for cards, which is why the Great Ninja did so well. My final mistake is during a bear market. Personally, my strategy, I will be taking more risk in a bear market. We all have the conviction that Pokemon is here to stay. It is the number one IP. All right. This also applies to the stock market. It applies to crypto. You know, I've been investing for about 10 years now. And so I've seen a lot of things, a lot of changes in the market, being through COVID, 2022, 2018. If you know, you know. But when the market goes down, you just think it's going to go down forever. You really do. And you don't want to buy. So a good strategy oftentimes is to dollar cost average in a bear market, because that is the number one way to build wealth, is, consistently investing over time. With that being said, I am telling myself now that when the crash comes, a crash or bear market, down market, whatever you want to call it, lower sales volume, prices will reflect that, and I will be using that opportunity to increase my position at a faster rate than I am now. Of course, I do see buying opportunities in the market, but Evolving Skies came out. It was $120. This was, peak time where the down market was active, right? 2022, 2023, etc. Of course, it increased in price, but not at the rate that it has been. Obviously, we've gone a little bit more parabolic. But it ties back to knowing which sets are good, seeing the opportunities, and understanding that long term, if you zoom out 3-5 years, you'll be fine. So concentrate, diversify if you want, if it makes you feel more comfortable. Crown Zenith, perfect example. $60 came out, dropped all the way down to basically 30. You can get it all day. I got 3 for 75 on TikTok with the discount. Everybody believes Crown Zenith was a great set, super fun to open. You should have been buying in this time period, ideally. All right. The risk actually decreases as the price goes down. Oftentimes, if the sentiment is good for a set, that's especially true, because then when the market roars again on a set that was opened a lot, price jumps a lot. Then you can start thinking about taking profits or kind of redistributing where you're putting your money, kind of reevaluating what you want to do going forward, and you can have a more crystal clear game plan. But it gives you the opportunity to make those decisions. So I think it's super important. That's my fifth and final of the video. These are my top 5 mistakes or lessons that I've learned in the hobby so far. If you have mistakes that you have made in the past, I would love to hear them down below. I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you so much for being here. And I will be live tomorrow, time TBD. TBD, have some plans midday. So guys, I appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts down below, because I would love to hear it. These are things that are important to think about going forward. We can buy all day, but we need to remember the important things. So appreciate it again. Have a great rest of your Saturday and your weekend in general. I will see you soon on Sunday for a stream. I will post on YouTube when that will be. And I will be back with a market recap video on Monday. A lot of things have happened. So thank you again. Peace.